I usually go with something that has hit me through the week on this inspirational segment. And I listen to so many things and read so much through the week that sometimes I can't remember my sources. But the other night I was having trouble with a baby up in the night, and I turned on YouTube and I watched a guy that was he was copying some of the old masters' habits to try to reenact a day in their life. It was a young guy, and he was following Picasso, and he was going to do some of Picasso's, like, what time did Picasso get up in the morning and how many hours did he paint. And this was one of the quotes that that he mentioned, and he was talking about how art rests our mind, can rest our mind, can help us leave everything else behind. And I love this quote. I've heard many quotes by Picasso. He's not one of my favorite painters. And we have an exhibit right now here in Nashville at the Frist of some of Picasso's work, I believe. But I love some of his quotes. And this one says, when I enter the studio, I leave my body at the door the way Muslims leave their shoes when they enter the mosque. And I only allow my spirit to go in there and paint. True that when I paint, and Winston Churchill also said the same thing in his little book, tiny little book called Painting as a Pastime. It's a 15-minute read, and it's just a phenomenal little book. But he talked about how that's an amazing way, or one of the only ways that we can rest our minds, because even when we sleep, our minds are still working. We're dreaming, and we're problem solving. And as artists, we are problem solving all the time. As women, we are caring for people all the time, and our minds very rarely get a chance to totally shut off and rest. So an important, and so what do you know, but several things that I came across, and I call these sacred echoes because I keep hearing the same little messages here and there. My little reading from Our Daily Bread, which is a little devotional today, talked about from Psalm 91. Okay. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was talking about dealing with the preschooler. So it got my attention because I'm helping to raise my grandchildren right now. I have a 2-year-old toddler. Being still often results in an unwanted though much needed nap. So he'd wiggle off his seat, slide off the sofa, scoot across the floor, even roll across the room to evade the quiet. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I have to go to the bathroom. I want a hug. And if you've had children or grandchildren in your care, you know that bedtime is there's such resistance to that. And I can relate to that because I get mad when I'm on a good roll at night and I look at the clock and it's 1 o'clock and I don't want to stop painting. But I know that if I don't, I'm going to be miserable the next day. So I loved what this writer of this devotional said. She said, understanding the benefits of stillness, I'd help Xavier, is her son, settle down by inviting him to snuggle, to lean into my side, and he would give in to sleep. Mm-hmm. And so she said, early in my spiritual life, I mirrored my son's desire to remain active. Busyness made me feel accepted, important, and in control. And while noise distracted me from fretting over my shortcomings and trials, surrendering to rest only affirmed my frail humanity. So I avoided stillness and silence, doubting that God could handle things without my help. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but I can, because I'm a fixer and I'm always trying to help with things. My Al-Anon group, one of the quotes one of the ladies said years ago was, helpfulness is the sunshine of control. And I'm just trying to help, but there are some control issues in there that I have to fight with. So that pushes art out of my life. I love that. Laugh on, Peach. I love it because it's true. I mean, it's true. I'm just trying to help. Can anybody relate to this not wanting to go to bed and the busyness thing? Don't hesitate.
When it's going good, it's like the clock doesn't matter. You just got to go until it lifts. I think everybody probably understands that, and sometimes it is ridiculously late.
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning, and you thought, okay, it just left me. It's time to stop.
Wow. And there's a precious balance with that, because I did it the other night. I got out there and I lost my good. You all know, some of you know, I have that wonderful North Light studio out there, and when it gets dark and I have to turn on even though there are good LEDs that are fairly balanced, the painting looked totally different the next morning. And so I just painted myself silly in the dark, and I've got to fix some things now. I wasn't in the dark, but it was not the same light as we have during the day. So there's a balance with that. Get your butt up and go to bed and work on it again tomorrow. But what I wanted to share with you, this was something that really got my attention. It was an interview I listened. It's a lady I follow on Facebook called Susie Larson. And Carla, some of you know Carla, she's the one that introduced me to her a few years ago. She had a book called Your Sacred Yes. And she talked about our sloppy yes, our shackled yes, and our sacred yes, and how as women we throw our yeses around like they don't matter, instead of setting boundaries and saying no to certain things. Well, this week she had a doctor that she interviewed who consistently had patients who came to her, and you see the book here. Sandra Dalton Smith was the doctor she interviewed, and I haven't read this book, so I don't know, but the interview was fabulous, and I wanted to share a few highlights from it with you. But she had patients who consistently came in exhausted, and she would do a whole barrage of tests on them. I sent some of you the link, so I don't know if you got to watch it.
Yeah, it was great. And I was trying to find it. I really needed to hear it again. I couldn't find it. And I said, I know you sent it to us. So yeah,
I'll post it on the
I need
Facebook
to get
page.
that. Yeah, I need to get that. Yeah.
But what she said is she would do all these tests on her patients, and then everything would be normal. And what she found is she developed this system of helping people identify what kind of tired you are, because we can be physically tired, emotionally tired, mentally tired, where things keep spinning in our head that we have to do, or conversations that we've had. You can be socially tired. You can have way too many people in your life that you interact with. You can be sensory exhausted. We have so many different things coming at us all the time, sounds and spicy foods and all kinds of things. So I've written down, and I'll share these on Facebook. We won't necessarily go over all of them, but I wanted to read a couple of her quotes. And this one I found online last night when I was looking for some images. It's about her book, and it says, "A well-rested life is a life at one with God, self, and others. It is strengthened by winding down the expectations of others and charging up your expectations for yourself." Charging them, just refueling, re-energizing. You become in tune with what you need to be at your best. You become comfortable with your strengths and knowledgeable about your weaknesses. You then use that information to pour into the areas needing strengthening and reinforce areas already strong. You find your sweet spot in living, loving, being, doing, and resting. And so it just really got my attention when you know, hey, I slept all night, but why am I still feeling so overwhelmed and exhausted? It's because I'm mentally exhausted, because I didn't put, all those things in my head on a piece of paper and lay them on my nightstand so I could deal with them tomorrow or have any experience.
I have something.
Okay,
yeah,
go, Jackie.
I wanted to share this anyway, so I'm so glad you opened it up. Last night, maybe it was the night before, I couldn't sleep. It was like my brain just would not stop. It was just, it was more than ever. I've even taken melatonin. I've taken the magnesium that's supposed to make you sleep. I even rubbed the magnesium under my foot that's supposed to make you sleep, right? I even had this, I have this little projector where I love to see, it projects stars in the universe up there, that just, and then I put on peaceful music. I mean, I did everything that I could, and my brain just would not stop. So that's why I needed to hear that video again, because I mean that the recording, yeah, because I need to get that book. I don't know why, for some reason, I just could not turn it off. And I didn't get to sleep till about maybe 4, and then only slept a few hours. And see, that's why I like to sleep at night, because I'm no good during the day if I don't sleep at night. I can't get anything done. So I just wanted to share that. That was a real trip. I didn't know what happened. I don't know why that happened. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, and listen, we all can relate to that at any given day. If I'm going on a trip or something, and I know I have to get up the next morning at 5 o'clock or something, I don't sleep a wink. Do you? And y'all are nodding your heads. So, how do we battle this, and how do we fight it? What are the remedies for that? And I
would pay good money if somebody's got an answer to that.
Whoops. Amen.
Yoga. Peach says yoga, meditation. I thought about that too. Yeah.
Yes. And listen, and I just want to go over a couple of these with you, because I think part of the battle, and never dawned on me before, is to identify how I'm tired. What kind of tired is this? And I just grabbed some of the highlights from the interview, and I had to go back and kind of decipher my handwriting. But one of the things in this first screen, can you guys see the blue screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sometimes I hit the wrong. I have so many different options on what to share here. It says, at any given day, could someone find you with 10 or more windows open on your computer or your phone? Are you a multitasker? Do you try to do a lot of things at a time? And this just pegged me. Like, my husband will come in here to try to help me with something on the computer, and he'll say, Chrissy, I don't even know how you work with all this stuff open on your computer. And I'm trying to do all kinds of different things. Sometimes, even this week, I took one earbud out so I could listen to somebody else and listen to what I was editing. I mean, I'm just nuts that way. So I love this little quote at the bottom: to note the exit ramps that God is providing. And I think that is so important, because they are all around us, but we are not tuned in to those exit ramps of how we can say no. And I did it this week after listening to this. I said no to something. My husband wanted me to go downtown with him to do some business. And I said, I can't do that. And I'll get all the information for you, and you can call me, but I can't go. And I didn't give a reason. I just said, this is what I can do for you, and you'll have to handle it. One of the things she talked about was mental exhaustion, and she said noise. So get a beat on often mental noise is fused with negative input. Mental exhaustion at night can be due to regurgitating events. And I love that word, regurgitating, because that's what we're doing. We're going back over the events of the day, or the events coming up, or conversations that we've had, or that we want to have with somebody, but we're not. Most of the time, how many conversations have you had because you were mad at somebody in your head and you never really said them to them? And even self-talk, or just going over everything we have to do. And one of her remedies there was to choose a word or a characteristic of God to rest in through the day. And even if you have to put it on a big piece of paper and set it in front of you. And yesterday in my Al-Anon meeting, the word humility came up in the reading. And one of the things it said was, in humility, you find, what was it? It was so powerful: grace and a way to intelligently solve problems. So it was like, I took that word humility all day, and I thought, wow, I don't ever chase after humility. My thing is I don't like to admit when I'm wrong, or I don't, So anyway, I kind of practiced it a little bit yesterday with humility, and I thought there's some fringe benefits to humility, to not speaking when I can. There were just some good things for me that yesterday, just because I had thought about that taking one word and tried to focus on that one word and thinking about it in different ways, and making yourself say, okay, every time I go away from that word, I'm coming back to it. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's joy. Maybe it's patience. Maybe whatever the word is. She called it word share. And she said, like a 5-year-old must be told over and over to sit down. Our brain is unruly. Right, Jackie? Our brain is like an unruly child, and we must come back to that word time and time again and find rest in replacing our thoughts. And there's a great scripture, Philippians 4:8, to think about these things. And there's a list of wonderful things that we can think about instead. And just like a child, you have to put them. I mean, how many times do we have to put our child back in the timeout seat? Back in the timeout seat, back in the timeout seat, you know. So we have to do that for our brain sometimes. Any thoughts about that? I'll push on through because I want to try to be done here by 10.
Yeah, I have to repent of my thoughts sometimes. Ooh, I said, oh, Jesus, help me. But anyway, that was just a little quick thing right there. That's all. But, you know, I fight through it and I get victory at the end. But, you know, I need victory at the beginning, not the end, you know, but as long as I got it. So just wanted to share that.
Well, and that segues us into the second one, spiritual rest. And you can, you know, sometimes your relationship with God is more of a student or a have to, or, oh, I didn't do my thing today, or, oh, and instead of a relationship and a friendship. And she had a little quote on there. She said, "Be still, O restless mind. What you see is what you find." And she said this statement: when you get tired, it makes you spiritually vulnerable to drift from all the things you care about. And I believe that's true. You know, if I don't have boundaries, then I'm sick of all of it. I'm not doing it anymore. I've had it. I'm done. You know, and I have that. Maybe I don't even say that anymore because I finally am growing up a little bit, but I say it in my mind, and I get to this overwhelmed place spiritually when I don't spend time first thing in the morning with God and setting my focus. And so those are important things. We've been talking about that over the last couple of months as well. It can be a compass for us, and is a compass.
I brought out my I forgot I had them. I have noise canceling. They're like, you know, Bose headphones. Because the G, God love him, is a Fox News addict or any, you know, and this screaminess makes my ears, I have tinnitus, it makes it work. So I put those suckers on because I just can't, it's just the noise.
Music I love that.
Music is, as long as it's my music, doesn't anything, pretty much rock and roll, jazz, but the television.
I love that. Thank you for that. And that goes to sensory rest. You know, how noisy is your environment? Phones, kids, if you work in an office, you can have all that loud office noise. Your husband with the loud TV, or we have music on. My husband has any kind of musical thing out there in the studio, from reel to reels. Now he's got cassette players to a turntable, and every kind of music you think of. Music plays from the time he gets up to the time he goes to bed, and it wears me out sometimes, honestly. And I don't realize that I'm tired from in a sensory way. I'll get in the car sometimes and I'm just totally quiet. I can't stand to hear anything. I just have to shut it all off. And she even said bright lights and salty or spicy food from packages. I didn't think about that being a sensory overload. But our senses need downtime too. Turn off your notifications. I mean, are you getting news notices? Are you getting reminders on your phone? Are you getting, you know, we have 3 different security systems now. I have a baby monitor in the house for her. We have 3 cameras outside. We have cameras at our commercial building that we just installed. So I have notices all the time that there's movement on your camera. I mean, it's overload. It's overload. So we've got to learn to shut some of those off. Put somebody else on camera duty if you're afraid you're going to get broken into. I don't know about that, but any thoughts about that? Tanisha, I'm so happy you're here. We're talking about resting from mental noise, from social noise, from sensory noise.
Well, I noticed that you know, the only thing that can really like take me way down as far as rest is music. I'm like your husband. I like to hear it all the time. I'm always okay. Peach is distracting me right now with all kind of jokes. I'm just letting you know. So if I seem like I'm off balance, it's because of Peach. But anyway, but I was thinking about like music with no word. I can't listen to any music with words because I'm drawn to the words. And I think about what I'm hearing. So it has to be way, way low. Even jazz hypes me up. So I have to listen to something that's really soft, like space music, I call it, or, meditation music in order to bring me way down. So I just wanted to share that. So, ways to kind of cut that off. I know for me, I'm a music person too. So can't live without it. But,
One of the things that I do at night is I have a calm app. I think it's called Rain, but I listen to the sounds of the waves of the ocean for about 45 minutes on a timer, and I never hear the end of it.
It makes you fall asleep.
Yeah, those
My husband and dog has gotten used to it, so
yeah,
we all
those
love
are
it.
good. Yeah, those are really good.
And listen, share on the Facebook page your music that you or these. Yeah, go ahead and share, because I love to get new music to listen to, and I don't like words either when I'm painting. I like to have it, and if you're trying to paint something upbeat and lively, then you need some upbeat music. And if you have, I notice in class, if it's too ambient and quiet, everybody falls asleep.
Yeah.
So I have to go over there and change it and get something that's a little bit more peppy in there.
Right.
But yeah, please remember I'll try to post something on the Facebook page to remind you to share your favorite music, even if it's on your Pandora list. That we can share with each other.
Sounds good.
Yeah. The last one is creative rest. And I never thought about this, but she said, how much of your creative energy, because we can use it up, y'all. How much of your creative energy do you use through the day? It can be exhausting if you are in a problem-solving vocation where you're solving problems, having to come up with ideas, teachers, your work. My sister is a controller in a big firm, and she's solving money numbers problems all day long and finding problems. And it's exhausting. It's a different kind of exhaustion. And I would come in from class sometimes after a 3-hour class, and I would be exhilarated, but exhausted. So, that's two very different feelings, but they're combined. So, identifying that, allowing yourself, and one of the remedies is allowing yourself to be inspired. Time to appreciate man-made and God-made beauty, and just giving yourself a little segment. We've talked about that in previous weeks of even just looking at Pinterest, of having folders of beautiful artwork. I go right now, because it's starting to get warm here in Tennessee, I go and look at gardening stuff because I'm ready to get out there and dig. At the end of last year, I was done with digging. I was not going to plant a garden or anything because I was sick of all the weeds. But now I'm all renewed, and I'm ready to plant a garden. And everybody's nodding their heads. Yes, let's get out in the dirt. Let me see. That's not the one I wanted to go to. I think one of the other things she talked about with creative rest is that, what's in us comes out. And so if we're exhausted and frazzled, it really does affect our artwork. And that, I will go to the next one, because this was unrelated. This was not a spiritual post. This was somebody in an email trying to sell me a book, Patrick Gentempo. I don't even know who he is. I don't know how he got my email, but I glanced at it because it got my attention, and it said, it was talking about spiritual purpose. And it says, the fourth line down here says, I believe we are capable of wonderful feats in life when we simply understand our purpose and therefore our core philosophy of life, which he's pushing his book. Our spiritual purpose is divine in nature. When we feel it, it feels thrilling, all-encompassing, and loving. It's the feeling you get when you learn NASA landed on Mars, when you meet that special person, when you dive into a brand new project, when you want to yell yes about something. And so he talks a little bit in this email about spiritual purpose, but reminding us that we are capable of great things when we know how spectacular we are. And we're spectacular enough to honor the creative side that God has put in us, and set boundaries for rest in other areas so that we have enough left. And I won't even say at the end of the day. Everybody says at the end of the day about everything these days. But, when it's all said and done in our lives, how much have we honored that part of our life, that creative part of our life? That's so essential. I'm a much better person when I have time to create. I'm happier and more joyful and more patient and not grouchy and irritable. And again, I go back to my sweet student, Barbara, that lived from hills of East Tennessee. Mary, if you think we're country talking, you should have heard her. She used to say, I get so dang grouchy when I can't paint. And it's true. That's exactly what, and I need to check on her because I haven't seen her in years. But that's all. It's a little after 10. I usually like to try to finish. Any closing thoughts about that inspirational segment? I hope it was helpful to you.
Very nice.
I need some quiet.
Well, Miss Christie, maybe you
Yes.
need to do like I do in the mornings, even though I'm laying in bed, I don't want to get up. It's like I hear no TV, no kids, no nothing. I hear the birds chirping. I feel the sun coming in, and I'm having my talk with God. And it is just so nice. There's times I don't even want to crawl out of the bed because I'm just enjoying, I guess you say, the nothingness, or just what little birds and stuff I hear. It's just nice not to hear stuff.
Yes. And that's great, Amy, because that's a good way to just kind of what they call it when you centralize yourself, or especially if you're having like anxiety issues or something, to just stop and be aware of everything that's around you, that's going on, the sounds, the smells, and just to, there's a word and I can't find it this morning, but.
Well, because when you're talking, I was like, I just enjoyed that. And I have jumped into classwork for a kid, trying to be a short order cook. Listen to y'all. When you said multitasking, I was like, oh God, I've got all my caps on already. So much for my tranquility I had just a little bit ago. I did have it. So I guess it had to charge me to get ready for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Amy. And I love that because she is a mom of kids, and she's a sandwich girl. She's got elderly parents and a mom of kids, and trying to work and trying to do all those things. So, we all know we've been in those different places. So we're so thankful. She is so faithful to log on every week and try to grab a little bit. Just even, if you're flying by the seat of your pants and you can grab a little bit of creativity, it looks different for us in different seasons. So on Pascal, I have a couple of different things. This is my agenda for how we're going to go this morning.
Christy?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Tanisha. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, please do.
In the chat, I had asked if you guys had tried like clearing your energy when you feel like overwhelmed or there's too much going on or whatever, like just taking a few seconds to kind of clear your energy. And then, it's kind of like a reset. So in the comments, Peach just kind of asked me if I could explain it. So I feel it's kind of better to verbally explain than to text it all in the chat. But how it works is pretty much we're all like, going on to the spiritual aspect, we're all like made up of energy and things like that. So pretty much when we feel overwhelmed and we get anxious, that's all of our energy just kind of bottled up in our bodies, and it doesn't have a place to go, or we don't know necessarily what to do with it. So in those times, you can just kind of like, it's like a short meditation, but maybe like a minute at max. If you want to do it, you can just kind of like, just close your eyes. And it's different ways to do it, but an easy way to pretty much do it, you can just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and kind of breathe, like inhale for 3 seconds, hold it for about 2 or 3, and then exhale for 4 seconds. And while you're doing this, you can visualize your body. You can visualize like a white light surrounding it or a light blue light surrounding it. Yes, Peach, it is kind of like a yoga kind of thing. It's like a real, I guess, spiritual. I kind of been studying that for the past year and a half or so. So it kind of goes in the realm of all of that. But yeah, so you just pretty much visualize a light, a light blue light, a white light, and you can do it certain ways. You can have it go from the top of your head and visualize it go through, your neck, your head, down to your arms, your fingertips, down to your legs, and let that light distribute itself and all that energy into the ground. So it's like leaving your body and being dispersed somewhere else. So you can just try that a few times. And after you do it, you can kind of realize and notice like all that energy is like gone. It's not bottled up. You're not so anxious. You're kind of calm more so afterwards. So it's just kind of a simple technique, something you can kind of do like that, just however many times throughout the day you feel you need to, and it can pretty much calm you fairly quickly.
Well, another term you could use with that, because I do kind of what you do, is some of them will call it mindfulness, which is same as still meditation. They just use a different terminology. So yeah.
Right, definitely.
It's amazing how just simple things that, unless we're reminded or spurred on by somebody to do, can make such a big difference. Just the way we handle things in our lives. And like I said earlier, we go our whole lives doing things a certain way, and we don't realize we're stuck in a rut. So I love that. Thank you, Tanisha, for sharing that. And just anything that you have like that, feel free to share that during our inspirational times, because hey, we want to be as creative and joy filled as we can, and there's so many things pulling at us to keep us from that. Denise.
What Tanisha was talking about is similar, not exact, but similar to what my Tai Chi instructor has tried to use. And I would go in a lot of pain. And by the time she finished with what she was doing and the things she told me to do, I was laying on a table. But while she was still talking, one time I fell asleep.
Wow.
In spite of all that pain. And then the other times, it was, it was instructed. It was, I didn't dream that I was going to participate in something similar in Tai Chi, but it was, it was clearing the mind and visualizing the body and relaxing the body one part at a time. And when I left, the pain level would be greatly reduced. So it's amazing, what you can do if you just put the focus where, in a better place other than your pain or your stress or depression or anxiety, whatever. Of course, my approach is prayer. And but what she was doing there was it was a physical thing about releasing the tension from every limb in your body. And I just couldn't believe how much that reduced the pain level that I was dealing with.
And we heard a couple of weeks ago about being barefoot, and Seema shared a little bit with us about your feet on the ground and how that grounds us. And my little granddaughter the other day, on one of our warm days, she will not keep her socks and shoes off. But I promise you, running around in the grass, that little girl her whole little countenance was changed when we came back in. So something happened with her. That being barefooted is another thing. So let's keep sharing this stuff. I am going to move us on to Pastime now, because I know a few of you have to leave early. I will.